Okay, last video about inequalities, and we're gonna do 3 questions. The first one is quite easy, the second one is a little bit tougher, and the last one is quite hard. The last one is definitely 600 plus question. Okay, this question: what is the largest integer k for which 4 to the power of k is smaller than 64 to the power of 15? So we have 4 to the power of k is smaller than 64 to the power of 15. Okay, if we want to compare these things, we have to, we need the same base, because then we can compare them. How can we rewrite 64 that we have the same base? We know 4 to the power of 2 is 16, and 4 to the power of 3 is 16 times 4, which is 64. So we can rewrite this as 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 15. So 4k is smaller than 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 15. So if you rewrite that further, you get 4k is smaller than 4 to the power of 3 times 15. So that is 45. So what's the smallest value k can get? The largest value, but it's still smaller than this one. That is 44. So k is smaller than 45. So k can be largest as possible is D. 44. Okay, definitely I think doable first question. I think it's 550, around that. Let's go to the second question. Second question. If x, let's make it a little bit bigger. If x, y, z is smaller than 0 and z is smaller than 0, then which of the following must be true? X, y is greater than 1. Okay, so we get x, y, z is smaller than 0, and we get the info that z is smaller than 0. So we know z is smaller than 0, z is negative. Z is negative. So we know this part from the equation, from the sum, is negative. And we know the total number is also negative because it's smaller than 0. What do we know about the xy part? Is it 1? No, that doesn't make sense. It can also be other numbers and still be smaller than 0. We know this part must be positive. Xy must be positive. Why? A positive number times a negative number will always be smaller than 0, always be a negative number. So which statement gives xy is positive? Statement E. Xy is greater than 0. So answer E. Okay, hopefully you get it. Let's go to the last question. There we go. Data sufficiency question, and we get the info if 0 is smaller than AB and AB is smaller than AC, is A negative. Is A negative. We have to, can we answer that question? And we know this part is positive and this is positive, right? Because otherwise it cannot be bigger than 0. So both are positive. First statement is quite easy. C is smaller than 0, or C is negative because it's smaller than 0. So C is negative. If C is negative and this number is positive, what must A be? A must be a negative number as well, otherwise it cannot be a positive number. So the first statement is sufficient because C is negative, so A must be negative as well. So A must be negative as well, otherwise the statement is not holding. A must be negative. So the first statement is sufficient. So now we're going to check, is it A or is it answer D? Second statement is more tricky. We get the info B is greater than C. Okay, so we know B is greater than C. However, in the equation, we get the info AB is smaller than AC. And of course, A is the same in both sides. But here we get B is greater than C. So hopefully you guys can follow what with the next thing I'm gonna say. How is this possible? This is only possible, remember from inequalities, that the sign flips when you multiple with a negative number. With a negative number. Then the sign flips if you divide or you multiple with a negative number. And what happens here? B was smaller than C because A is the same. So B was smaller than C. However, now B is greater than C. And that is only possible if A is a negative number because we multiple with a negative number. So the second statement is also sufficient. So it's answer D. Both are sufficient. Okay, thanks. That was it for the videos. See you guys next week in the next video series about part 4. Ciao, ciao.